Welcome to the first lecture video in this Udemy course for the Data Science at Georgia Tech Bootcamp. My name is Neil, and I'm a content creator for the Data Science Club at Georgia Tech. Just to give a little bit of background, Data Science at Georgia Tech is an organization that helps to make data science accessible to anyone. And one way we attempt to do that is using this bootcamp. In this lecture video, we'll go into a brief introduction to Python, basic syntax, flow control, data structures, and functions. So to start, why do we use Python? Well, for one, it's very readable and easy to understand, mainly because the syntax is very simple. Also, there are a lot of data science libraries we can use, which is why Python has become one of the most popular languages to use for data science. Alright, now, let's dive into some code. In Python, we can assign values to variables using the equals sign. As you can see in these first two lines, we assign A the value 5 and B the value 15. Variables are very important fundamentals for programming, and they help us store basic data. Say we want to sum A and B and see the result on the screen. Then we can use this simple print statement like the one shown here. But what if we wanted to add two strings together, like the variables C and D? Well, it turns out in Python, we can use the same plus operator to add two strings together and see the result on screen using a print statement. So if we run this code, we can see that A plus B is 20, and the strings C plus D concatenated together are data science is fun. Alright, now, since we know how to create variables and store data in variables, let's go ahead and do some cooler things. So for example, in this cell, we will only print out the value correct if the concatenation of C and D is data science is fun. Otherwise, we'll print out the statement false. So let's see what this outputs, and we can see it outputs correct since the strings concatenated together was data science is fun. Now, sometimes when you're coding, you may have a situation where you want to run something multiple times, like maybe a print statement, but you don't want to write the same line over and over again. Well, to handle that, that's where for loops and while loops come into play. So as you can see here, this snippet of code says that for every number between 0 inclusive and the value A exclusive, we print out the statement DSGT. So how many times is this string printed? Well, we're essentially iterating through 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we expect this to be printed out 5 times. And if we run this code, we can see that it's printed out 5 times. So strings in Python are pretty interesting because they're treated as lists of letters. So for instance, we can simply iterate through a string and print out every letter that we want to using a for loop statement such as this one here. So if we run this code, we can see that every letter is printed out, including the spaces. So those are the very basics of Python. Hopefully that all makes sense. And of course, you guys can use this notebook to experiment with some different manipulations and try different things. Now, let's go over some of the basic data structures that you will be using in Python: lists, tuples, and dictionaries. Lists are basically a collection of items. You can store characters, integers, strings, any of the primitive types in a list. As you can see here, the variable C is pointing to a list containing the strings A, B, and C. An interesting thing about lists in Python is that you can easily index them by specifying the position. One thing that takes getting used to when you're starting a program is that we usually index from 0. Meaning the first position of any list is the 0th element. So this is the 0th element, the second position is the first element, and the third position is the second index. So, for example, if we print out this statement, the first item in the array is C of 0, we expect it to print out A, since we index by 0. In lists, we can also change the value at certain indices. So, for example, if we want to change the value at the first index to 23, we can just do that by simply saying C of 1 equals 23. So we expect the value B to be replaced by 23. So if we print out the values of C, we can see that C has become A, 23, and C. So now let's talk about tuples. Tuples are pretty similar to lists, but the only difference really is that you cannot change values inside of them. This code here is trying to do that by changing the value 2 equal to 5. Unfortunately, this would cause an error because tuples are immutable while lists are mutable, which means they can be changed. So if we run this code, we can see that the error says tuple objects does not support item assignment, which means they just can't be changed. Now on to dictionaries. Dictionaries are essentially another word for a lookup table. In dictionaries, you have keys and values, which come in key-value pairs. In other words, values belong to keys. We can retrieve a value in a dictionary by looking up its corresponding key. So if you can see here, we are essentially defining a dictionary with the keys data science, GPA, and best numbers, and the values to those keys fun, 4, and 3 and 4. And if we print out D of data science, we can see that we are indexing the key data science, so we're going to print out the value for that key, which is fun. We can also reassign values to keys. So for example, if we want to change the best numbers from 3 to 4 to like 99 and 100, we can do that by simply saying the element at the key best numbers is now 99 and 100. And we can also add keys to a dictionary simply by saying defining a new key and a new value. Another interesting dictionary that might illustrate this idea is a dictionary with some student lists and their corresponding info. So as you can see here, the student's name is George Burdell, and the corresponding values are his information. So we can get the output of this code, and we can see that the information printed for George Burdell is his age, major, and email. Now on to functions. Functions are a very important construct in Python because it helps keep your code organized just like any other programming language. So to define a function, we use the def keyword, and then followed by the function name, which is add, and the parameters it takes in, which is a and b. Then you put the logic of your function inside the function. At the end of a function, you put your return statement, which is essentially what would be assigned to a variable if you called the function and assigned the function call to a variable, similar to this. So variable equals add 5, 7. So this is essentially assigning the output of add 5, 7 to the variable name, variable. So this function in particular simply just takes in two variables and returns the sum of them. And if we run this code here with these inputs, we can see that the addition of 2 and 4 is 6, the addition of 4 and 7 is 11, and the addition of 3 times 4, which is 12, and 6 is 18. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. I will say that this video is pretty much an overview of the absolute basics. So I would recommend checking out the tutorials in the resources page in the website to get a little more advanced treatment. Thank you guys for tuning into this video, and I will see you in the next lecture where we will be covering some basic data analysis in Python. Have a good rest of your day.